The Lost Secrets of the Mississippi Mounds. What if I told you that beneath the soil of Mississippi lies a secret older than America itself, one that could rewrite everything we know about the ancient world? Chapter 1. The Discovery That Shook History. In the sweltering heat of the Mississippi summer, Dr. Eleanor Whitmore wiped the sweat from her brow and crouched beside the mound. She had been studying Native American archaeology for over 15 years, yet nothing in her career had prepared her for what she was about to uncover. The mound itself was unassuming, a gentle rise of earth among the dense greenery of the Yazoo Delta. But whispers among local historians had hinted at an unusual composition beneath its surface. Eleanor had received the tip through a tattered letter sent anonymously months before. The handwriting was spidery and uneven, as if the author had been writing in a rush, or perhaps in fear. Beneath the mound lies evidence they never wanted you to find, it had read. At first, she had dismissed it as the ramblings of a crank, but curiosity gnawed at her like a persistent moth. When she arrived in the small town of Natchez, Mississippi, she found that even the locals spoke of the mound in hushed tones, almost reverentially. Armed with a small team of graduate students and her assistant, Samuel Price, Eleanor began the careful excavation. Unlike many archaeological digs, this mound had no markers on the surface, no signs that it had been touched by modern hands. Her trowel scraped gently against the soil, and suddenly a metallic clink rang out. Eleanor froze, her heart racing. "What is it?" Samuel asked, leaning closer. The object was a small bronze disc, green with oxidation, yet unmistakably crafted by human hands. The intricate carvings bore no resemblance to known Native American designs. Instead, the symbols appeared almost mathematical, arranged in patterns that suggested astronomical knowledge far beyond the era it thought to belong to. Eleanor's hands shook as she carefully lifted it, documenting every detail. The discovery sent ripples through the academic community once the preliminary report was leaked. Skeptics immediately dismissed it as a modern forgery, while enthusiasts heralded it as the most significant find in North American archaeology in a century. The disc seemed to point toward a network of similar mounds scattered across the Mississippi River Valley, sites that, until now, were believed to be separate and culturally unrelated. Eleanor returned to the site the following morning, determined to continue the dig. By then, a small contingent of local journalists had gathered, eager for a scoop. Eleanor tried to maintain focus, instructing her team to excavate carefully. Hours passed, and the mound began to reveal more of its secrets. Beneath the upper layers of soil lay a series of stone chambers, perfectly aligned with the cardinal points of the compass. Inside the first chamber, the team found artifacts that defied historical expectations. Copper tools, intricately carved ivory figurines, and fragments of manuscripts that, when pieced together, suggested the presence of a sophisticated literate civilization thriving centuries before European colonization. The manuscripts were written in a language that bore faint resemblance to Sumerian cuneiform, with unique symbols that suggested an entirely new script. Eleanor could hardly believe her eyes. As the day wore on, Samuel uncovered what appeared to be a skeletal structure unlike anything documented in North America. The bones were elongated and robust, and carbon dating later confirmed they were over 3,000 years old. This was not merely a mound built for ceremonial purposes. It was a repository of knowledge and power, a necropolis for a people whose existence had been erased from mainstream history. Word of the find quickly reached the Smithsonian Institution, and within weeks, a team of federal archaeologists joined Eleanor's dig. Yet as the excavation continued, tensions arose. Some locals claimed the mound was cursed, speaking of nightmares and strange phenomena. Lights in the woods at night, the
the sound of drums when no one was around. Eleanor dismissed these tales, attributing them to superstition, until one night she awoke to a low humming sound emanating from the mound. Standing at the edge of the excavation pit, Eleanor felt an inexplicable chill. The humming seemed to resonate from the very earth beneath her feet, vibrating through her bones. She glanced at Samuel, who looked equally pale. "Do you hear it?" she whispered. He nodded, eyes wide. For a moment, time seemed suspended, and the mound loomed over them not as a relic of the past, but as a living entity, guarding secrets humanity was not yet ready to comprehend. The next morning, Eleanor found her team in disarray. Tools were scattered, notes were missing, and the artifacts had been disturbed in ways she had not ordered.
Chapter 2. The Map of Forgotten Stars. Hook in YouTube style. What if an ancient civilization had mapped the stars long before the first telescope, leaving clues buried under the soil of America? The sun had barely risen over the Mississippi Delta, casting a golden haze over the excavation site, but Eleanor Whitmore was already at the mound, her boots sinking slightly into the damp earth. The previous night's strange hum still echoed in her mind, a haunting reminder that this dig was far from ordinary. Samuel Price joined her, holding a folder brimming with sketches and notes from the team's discoveries. "We need to focus today," Eleanor said, her voice steady but tense. "The artifacts, the chambers, they all form a pattern. There's something here we're missing." Samuel nodded. "I've been trying to map the chambers with the initial survey, and it's not random. The layout aligns with celestial positions, like some kind of star map." Eleanor's eyebrows shot up. "You mean they were astronomers?" "Not just astronomers," Samuel replied, unfolding a rough sketch of the mound's layout. "Engineers, too. Mathematicians. Whoever built this knew the movement of the heavens probably centuries before Europeans ever sailed to this continent." The team descended into the largest chamber, its walls lined with smooth stone blocks, each etched with cryptic symbols. A faint smell of iron lingered in the air. Eleanor's flashlight illuminated one particular wall that had gone unnoticed the previous day, a massive mural, partially covered in dirt, depicting a constellation of stars interwoven with geometric patterns. Eleanor stepped closer, tracing the carvings with her fingers. "These are not purely decorative. Look at the sequence here." She pointed to a series of triangles and circles. "This matches the Pleiades cluster, and this spiral pattern seems to correspond to the Milky Way as it would have appeared 3 millennia ago." Her heart raced. If their calculations were correct, this mural was essentially a map of the night sky from thousands of years in the past, an astronomical record far older than any known Native American star charts. "Let's photograph everything, document every line," Eleanor instructed. "We need a digital copy before the elements or something else disturbs it." As the team worked, a sudden noise reverberated through the chamber, a low, almost mechanical hum. Eleanor froze, looking at Samuel. "It's happening again," she whispered. The vibration seemed to pulse from the walls themselves, intensifying as if the mound recognized their intrusion. Samuel shivered. "Maybe it's structural. The stones are settling." Eleanor wasn't convinced. There was an unnatural cadence to the sound, almost deliberate, as though it were a signal. She recorded the hum on her audio device, hoping experts would later identify it. Hours passed, and the team continued to uncover more artifacts: bronze compasses, tiny carved spheres that could be planetary models, and fragments of manuscripts written on a durable material that resembled thin sheets of copper. The script was entirely new, a series of symbols that seemed mathematical rather than linguistic. But with painstaking analysis, Eleanor began deciphering patterns. "This isn't just writing," she said. tracing her finger over a sequence. It's instructions, engineering, measurements, maybe even building plans. Samuel leaned closer. Building what? That's the question, Eleanor admitted. And why here? Why bury it under a mound in Mississippi? By late afternoon, the team had mapped nearly all the chambers, revealing an intricate network of tunnels beneath the surface. Some led to small alcoves containing skeletal remains, but others opened into larger spaces with stone platforms and depressions that suggested ritualistic use. Eleanor couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing in a sacred archive, not merely a burial site. Then they found something unexpected. A metal box, roughly the size of a shoebox, heavily corroded but intact. Eleanor knelt carefully, brushing away centuries of dirt. The box had no latch, but after a few minutes of manipulation, a hidden hinge gave way. Inside were several tightly rolled sheets of copper, engraved with symbols and diagrams far more sophisticated than anything previously uncovered. "Look at this," Samuel breathed, unrolling one of the sheets. It's a calendar." Eleanor's eyes widened. "A calendar?" "Yes," Samuel said, pointing to a sequence of symbols that seemed to align with lunar and solar cycles. "And these markings, they predict eclipses, solstices, even planetary alignments with astonishing accuracy. Whoever made this had knowledge of astronomy and timekeeping far beyond what we thought existed in this region 3,000 years ago." Eleanor felt a chill. This was not just a mound. It was a repository of knowledge, a library of science and ritual combined, meticulously preserved for millennia. She imagined the civilization that had built it, their culture lost to time, yet their intellect encoded in metal and stone. The discovery made headlines within days. Articles described the mound as a potential ancient library, sparking debates in academic journals, television programs, and online forums. Skeptics claimed it was an elaborate hoax, while others argued it was evidence of a forgotten civilization that predated the recognized mound-building cultures of North America. But Eleanor's focus was not on fame. She knew there was more beneath the surface, both literally and figuratively. Her next goal was clear: decipher the copper manuscripts, map the full extent of the underground tunnels, and understand the civilization that had gone to such lengths to preserve their knowledge. As night fell over the delta, Eleanor stood at the mound's edge, gazing at the stars reflected in the Mississippi River. She felt a connection to those ancient astronomers, imagining them looking up at the same constellations, tracking time, and planning their monuments with precision and purpose. Then she noticed a flicker of movement near the tree line, a shadow slipping silently among the trees, watching, waiting. Eleanor's breath caught. She wasn't sure if it was a local animal or something more. But in
Chapter 3. Beneath the River's Shadow. By dawn, the Mississippi was veiled in mist, a gray curtain that stretched across the water and swallowed the banks in silence. Eleanor Whitmore and her team had returned to the mound, carrying newly unearthed copper sheets and a growing sense of urgency. The past days had revealed astonishing artifacts, but today Eleanor had a different goal: explore the subterranean tunnels hinted at in the copper manuscripts. According to the inscriptions, these tunnels extend far beyond the mound, Samuel said, unfurling a sketch of interconnected chambers and corridors. Some of them might even reach the river. It's as if the builders designed an entire underground network we've only just begun to comprehend. Eleanor nodded, adjusting her helmet. We're not just excavating artifacts anymore. We're following a blueprint left by a civilization that wanted its knowledge hidden but preserved. We need to trace it carefully. The first tunnel was narrow and suffocating. Eleanor's flashlight revealed walls lined with smooth, blackened stone, faint carvings running along their length. The smell of damp earth mixed with something metallic,
almost like ancient iron. As they progressed, the tunnel widened into a chamber that appeared ceremonial in nature. In its center stood a stone platform atop which rested a circular slab engraved with a star map. "This is incredible," Eleanor whispered, running her fingers over the carvings. "It's aligned perfectly with the winter solstice. Whoever built this had precise knowledge of the solar cycle." Samuel examined a smaller alcove nearby. "And look at this, small niches for offerings, perhaps astronomical instruments or ritual objects. They clearly valued these rituals as much as the scientific knowledge." Hours passed as the team carefully mapped the chamber and cataloged the artifacts. Every inch of stone seemed intentional, every carving deliberate. But the deeper they went, the more Eleanor sensed a presence, a subtle tension in the air, as if the tunnel itself were alive, aware of their intrusion. "Did you hear that?" Samuel asked suddenly. Eleanor paused. A faint rushing sound echoed from deeper in the tunnel. It was low and distant, almost like running water. Her pulse quickened. Could it be a subterranean stream, she suggested, though uncertainty laced her voice. The map did indicate proximity to the river, but Eleanor hadn't anticipated actual water flowing beneath them. As they moved toward the sound, the tunnel sloped downward, and the air grew colder and damper. Then, suddenly, the walls opened into a vast cavern. The ceiling arched high above, dripping with condensation, and at the far end, a narrow channel of water shimmered in their flashlight beams. The river ran beneath the mound, hidden for centuries. Eleanor knelt at the edge, staring at the underground current. This changes everything. They didn't just build monuments, they engineered an entire waterway system. Samuel examined the walls near the river. These carvings, they're different, more symbolic, almost like warnings. He traced the shapes, intertwined serpents, geometric grids, and human figures in ritual poses. Maybe they wanted to protect this area or guide people safely through it. The team debated for a moment. Then Eleanor made the decision. "We follow it carefully. If these tunnels lead to other mounds along the river, we could map an entire network that's been hidden for millennia." Wading carefully into the shallow water, they followed the narrow channel, the cold seeping through their boots. Eleanor's flashlight illuminated more carvings along the stone walls, depicting astronomical events and cycles of the moon and sun. It became clear that this subterranean river system wasn't just practical, it was symbolic, connecting the cycles of nature to the civilization's spiritual and scientific knowledge. After what felt like hours, they reached another chamber, larger than any before. It was a massive subterranean hall with stone platforms arranged in concentric circles. In the center, a pedestal held a small crystalline object, faintly glowing under their lights. Eleanor approached cautiously. This could be some kind of lens or prism, Samuel speculated. "Look at the way it refracts the light from our lamps. It focuses it into a single point." Eleanor studied it. "If this is what I think it is, they used it to observe the stars underground. This civilization may have recorded astronomical phenomena even while underground, perhaps during storms or for ritual purposes. It's astonishing." But before they could investigate further, a tremor ran through the cavern. Loose stones rattled, and the hum Eleanor had heard at the mound intensified, vibrating through the walls and water alike. Eleanor grabbed Samuel's arm. "Something is happening. We need to move carefully." The tremor subsided after a few tense moments, but the sense of unease remained. Eleanor realized that the mound's builders had designed not only an archive, but a protective system. Some force, mechanical, spiritual, or both, seemed built into the tunnels themselves, meant to guard against intruders. The team retraced their steps carefully, documenting every discovery. By the time they emerged back into daylight, the Mississippi Delta felt transformed. What had once seemed like a simple mound was now revealed as a complex, hidden network connecting the earth, water, and sky. Eleanor knew the implications. Mapping the subterranean tunnels could reveal more about the lost civilization than anything previously imagined. Advanced engineering, astronomical knowledge, and perhaps even secrets about the people who vanished from history. As the team packed up for the day, a local historian approached her, his expression grave. "You don't understand what you've uncovered. People have disappeared looking for the river beneath the mound. It's protected." Eleanor met his gaze, unwavering. "I don't believe in curses or warnings, but I do believe in uncovering the truth, no matter how dangerous." That night, as the river shimmered under the moonlight, Eleanor studied her notes. The copper manuscripts, the star maps, the tunnels, they were pieces of a vast hidden puzzle, and she realized one thing with chilling clarity. Someone or something had gone to great lengths to keep this puzzle intact and hidden.
Chapter 4. The Forgotten City Beneath the Delta. Eleanor Whitmore awoke before sunrise, the Mississippi mist curling around the delta like a living veil. She had spent the night poring over the copper manuscripts, tracing the star charts and diagrams, and she realized the tunnels beneath the mound were only the beginning. The maps suggested something extraordinary, a subterranean city stretching for miles, intricately aligned with both the stars and the river above. "Samuel," she called as he entered the tent, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "We need to plan a full expedition into the deeper tunnels. The copper sheets, they point to chambers much larger than anything we've explored." Samuel nodded, excitement and apprehension in equal measure. "If this is what I think it is, it's a city, maybe even a network of cities." Eleanor's fingers trembled slightly as she laid out the plan. They would follow the subterranean river system upstream, mapping each chamber and alcove, cross-referencing with the symbols etched in the walls. Every step could uncover relics of a lost civilization whose knowledge and culture had vanished thousands of years ago. By mid-morning, the team was fully equipped with lights, climbing gear, and recording equipment. They entered the tunnels, wading through the cold water, the hum from earlier days now a constant companion. As they pressed deeper, Eleanor noticed changes in the architecture. The stone walls became more ornate, with carvings of humanoid figures wearing elaborate headgear, possibly representing leaders or priests. Symbols that resembled written language grew more complex, and the corridors widened into halls that hinted at ceremonial or administrative use. After hours of exploration, the tunnels opened into a vast subterranean plaza. Eleanor's flashlight illuminated stone buildings, their facades engraved with intricate patterns, circular courtyards, and pillars rising from the floor like frozen trees. The scale was staggering. They had discovered a forgotten city beneath the Mississippi, a metropolis of stone and knowledge, preserved in darkness for millennia. "This is beyond anything we imagined," Eleanor whispered, her voice echoing in the cavernous hall. "We're standing in the heart of a civilization that predates all known history in North America." Samuel examined the raised platform at the center of the plaza. "Look at these inscriptions. They seem to describe governance, trade, astronomy, even rituals. This was a thriving city, not just a ceremonial mound." Eleanor moved closer, studying a set of bas-reliefs depicting people carrying tools, scrolls, and star mapping instruments. They were scholars, engineers, astronomers, and priests. Everything was interconnected. The city, the river, the stars above. It's genius. The team split into smaller groups to survey different sections of the city. In one corridor, they discovered skeletal remains that were unusually tall and robust, confirming the extraordinary nature of this civilization.
Alongside the bones were tools and ornaments unlike anything recorded in known Native American cultures. Copper knives with etched patterns, ceremonial headdresses, and carved figurines depicting animals and celestial bodies. Eleanor carefully documented each find, realizing the city was a vast archive of human knowledge. The copper manuscripts hinted at a codified system for recording astronomical phenomena, mathematical principles, and even advanced agricultural techniques. This city had been deliberately hidden beneath the delta, shielded from floods and invaders, preserved for millennia. But as they explored, a sense of unease settled over the team. Samuel noticed strange markings on the floor, footprints that didn't belong to the explorers. "Eleanor, look at this. These weren't made by us." The team froze, scanning the shadowed corridors. The air seemed to shift, carrying a low murmur that was neither wind nor water. Eleanor's heart raced. "We're not alone," she whispered. Suddenly, a faint glow appeared at the far end of the plaza, a pulsating light, almost like the crystalline object they had found in the tunnels beneath the mound. Eleanor moved cautiously toward it, and as she approached, the light intensified, revealing a circular chamber beneath a stone archway. Inside, a massive bronze astrolabe lay on a pedestal, its rings spinning slightly, as if powered by an unseen force. This is the city's core," Eleanor said, awestruck. "It's an astronomical device. They must have used it to track celestial movements and perhaps guide the city's architecture and tunnels. It's alive." Samuel shivered. "Alive? You mean some kind of mechanism?" Eleanor nodded slowly. "Or something more. It's clear this civilization designed everything with purpose. Knowledge, architecture, the flow of water, even the stars. And they built safeguards, possibly traps to protect it. That humming sound, the movements we noticed, this may be the city's way of defending itself." The team spent hours documenting the astrolabe and surrounding artifacts. The copper manuscripts they carried hinted at even greater mysteries deeper in the tunnels, sections that had not been mapped. Eleanor realized the city was more than an archaeological treasure. It was a living record, a civilization's intellect preserved in stone and metal. But as they prepared to leave the plaza, a sudden tremor shook the ground. Loose stones fell from the ceilings, and the low hum escalated into a vibration that reverberated through the entire chamber. Eleanor grabbed Samuel's arm. "We need to move, now!" They retraced their steps, following the underground river to escape the tremor, hearts pounding. When they finally emerged...
Chapter 5. The Signal from the Past. Night had fallen heavy over the Mississippi Delta. In the camp, only the hiss of the lanterns and the chirping of insects broke the silence. Eleanor Whitmore sat alone inside her tent, replaying the audio she had recorded in the tunnels. The low hum, steady, rhythmic, almost tonal, looped endlessly through her headphones. She adjusted the frequency, and suddenly patterns emerged. The sound wasn't random, it was mathematical. Samuel entered quietly, holding 2 mugs of coffee. "You're still at it?" Eleanor nodded, eyes fixed on the waveform on her laptop. "It's not just vibration or echo. Listen." She pressed play. The hum pulsed in distinct intervals, 5 long tones, 3 short, then a pause, then repetition. Samuel frowned. "That's a sequence, like code." "Exactly," Eleanor said. "These people weren't just builders. They were sending messages. This frequency was generated through the stone itself. The entire city might function like a transmitter." Samuel looked uneasy. "Transmitting what? And to whom?" Eleanor's gaze hardened. "That's what we're going to find out." At sunrise, the team prepared to descend again. Armed with portable sensors and new recording gear, they retraced their path through the mound, back toward the subterranean city. The tunnel air was cool and heavy, carrying faint echoes that seemed to follow them. Halfway down, the sensors began to spike. A pulsing electromagnetic field grew stronger the deeper they went. The readings fluctuated precisely with the rhythm of the hum Eleanor had recorded. "Whatever's making that sound," Samuel said, glancing at the display, "it's active." When they reached the plaza, they found the bronze astrolabe just as they'd left it, except now its concentric rings were moving faster, rotating with a subtle metallic whisper. Pale light shimmered along the grooves. Eleanor approached slowly, every instinct torn between fear and fascination. "Could the movement be caused by magnetic interference?" one of the grad students asked. Eleanor shook her head. No external source could generate this pattern. It's responding to something underground, maybe seismic, maybe electrical, or something designed. She reached out and placed her hand on the metal. Instantly, the hum intensified. Lines of faint blue light traced across the walls, revealing hidden inscriptions, glyphs invisible before. The team gasped as the entire chamber glowed with geometric constellations. Eleanor whispered, "It's a data system. The whole city is an encoded map." Samuel steadied his voice. "If that's true, the hum could be how it stores or transmits information, like sonar or resonance memory." The symbols flickered, forming recognizable star clusters. The Pleiades, Orion, and something unfamiliar, a new constellation that didn't exist in any known catalog. Eleanor snapped photos frantically, heart racing. "These stars don't align with the present sky. They belong to a different epoch, thousands of years ago. They're showing us the sky as it looked when the city was built." The implication hit her like thunder. Whoever built this civilization possessed astronomical records accurate enough to map the heavens across millennia. Hours passed in the half-light. The team documented every illuminated wall until the energy began to fade. The glowing glyphs dimmed, and the astrolabe slowed its rotation. Silence returned, but it wasn't complete silence. A faint whisper-like murmur replaced the hum, almost like distant voices carried through stone. Eleanor froze. "Do you hear that?" Samuel nodded, eyes wide. "It's speech, or chanting." They followed the sound down a narrow corridor branching from the plaza. The walls here were rougher, the carvings older. At the corridor's end stood a sealed stone door, its surface etched with spiraling lines that converged at a single central point. The murmuring seemed to emanate from behind it. Eleanor pressed her hand against the stone. It was warm. "Whatever is beyond here," she said quietly, "has been active all this time." Samuel swallowed hard. "Do we open it?" For a long moment she hesitated. Every rational impulse told her to stop, but curiosity, the same force that had driven explorers for centuries, won out. They carefully removed debris around the edges until the slab shifted. A gust of stale air hissed out, carrying the scent of metal and age. Behind the door was a circular chamber, smaller than the plaza, but far stranger. In its center stood a black stone pillar, smooth and seamless, rising from floor to ceiling. The hum returned, deeper now, vibrating through the air and their bones. Eleanor approached the pillar, her flashlight reflecting off it like polished obsidian. Symbols began to emerge across it, lines of text, spirals, and then, astonishingly, human faces. Projected images flickered within the stone as if it were alive. "They recorded themselves," Eleanor whispered, tears forming in her eyes. This is their voice." The images showed figures gazing at the sky, building mounds, charting constellations, then retreating underground as floods consumed their world. The sequence ended with a symbol, the same unfamiliar constellation they had seen earlier, followed by a single glowing line pulsing across the pillar. "It's a message," Eleanor said. "They're telling us what happened here." Samuel stared at her. "A warning?" "Maybe," she answered softly, "or an invitation." Suddenly the hum cut off, the lights flickered out, Total darkness swallowed the chamber. The team's flashlights sputtered, their batteries inexplicably drained. Only the faint reflection of the pillar remained, pulsing once every few seconds, like a heartbeat in the earth. Eleanor's voice was barely a whisper. "We've awakened something ancient." The silence that followed was immense, heavy, eternal. And somewhere deep beneath the Mississippi River, something shifted in reply.